Awesome, everybody. Thank you for waiting. We're gonna get started right away here. All right, so before we get started, I'm just gonna go over a couple housekeeping rules. So firstly, this is gonna be a condensed format. And what that means is we're gonna be going through all the information fairly quickly. So if you have any questions or you want clarification on any concepts, please reach out to us independently for a more detailed conversation. Secondly, you're going to be encouraged to take notes. Again, a lot of information is going to be thrown your way, so that's probably a good idea. We'll be sending out a copy of these slides just in the chat so you can download them. And then if you have any questions, please put them in the chat or reserve them till the end just to kind of keep things in time. We'd be more than happy to answer all the questions after the presentation. So let's begin. And I'm going to pass this on to Jim to introduce himself.
Hey everybody, my name is Jim Dillon. I'm a realtor with RE/MAX Elite. We have 4 offices in Edmonton, over 225 agents, most of which are top performers. We have a lot of top performers in our office for a few different reasons, but most of all, RE/MAX is a really recognized brand, so it's easy to do well at a RE/MAX office. We own 13% of the market share in Edmonton. An average of 2 deals per day are done within our brokerage. So just show you how huge that is. An average realtor in Edmonton does 4 deals a year. So 2 a day in our office is huge. So we have a large part of the market in our city, and that definitely benefits you when you're shopping for a home to work with realtors that are high performers. Volunteer initiatives. I do tons of stuff in the community. I like giving back. Ever since I've turned in my late 40s, my kid's a little bit older now. I have a lot more spare time. So, I've changed my focus a little bit and trying to give back to the community. Major charities I work with: Stollery Children's Hospital, Boyle Street Community Services, Ronald McDonald House, and Habitat for Humanity. I like working at all those. And you know what? It makes me feel good at the end of the day. So I really enjoy going there and helping out. Currently, I like being a leader in the industry as well. So I'm director with the Real Estate Association of Edmonton. I was voted into that position by my peers, so I'm very, very proud of that. And I was also nominated for Realtor of the Year in 2019, which I'm also very proud of. Over almost 3,700 realtors in Edmonton. So I was one of 7 nominated. Unfortunately, I didn't win, but it's still quite the honor being nominated for something like that. So, and I really appreciated it. I wanted to talk about something. When you're hiring a realtor, you're actually hiring a consultant. Okay, so as a realtor, my job is to give you knowledge, give you education, pass on the experiences I've had to you. In the end, all the decisions are going to be your decisions. You make all the final decisions. My job is to give you knowledge and education so you can make the correct decision for your needs. So I'm a consultant. So please treat me like that. All right, I'm here to give you knowledge. Any questions you have, please ask. One other thing, a lot of people don't know, you don't have to pay a buying realtor. So there's no cost associated to you when you use me as your realtor. Sellers always pay the realtor. So someday after you buy a house, when you sell it someday, you'll have to pay both realtors. So you get all the benefit of my knowledge, experience, me being your consultant at no cost to you. So really, it's a huge win for you to have a buying realtor, to have me as your buying realtor. So one other thing I wanted to talk about here is buying after COVID-19. So during COVID-19, buying real estate was very busy. It looked very different. But since it's ended, I wanted to talk about the market a little bit and what it kind of looks like right now. People are always calling me, my friends are calling me, hey, Jim, what's the market like? So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So one of the things is, are people buying and selling homes right now? Absolutely they are. Sales increased actually 31% from 2019 to 2020. So a huge increase in sales. Currently, home sales are up 10% from last year. So this year so far, up 10%, which is a huge, huge number. Many realtors are having career years this year, as well as real estate lawyers and home inspectors and mortgage people, all having career years because, people buying real estate affects a lot of other industries. Some of the people that are here today will tell you how great they're doing as well. I've started the year off very, very strong, record numbers for me. I've already done the same amount of sales I did last year in the first 5 months of this year, and going into 6, 7 months. And through the end of the year, it's going to be very, very strong. So why are sales so good? There are currently a low number of homes for sale right now in the greater Edmonton area. There's about 7,200 homes for sale right now. Not a large amount. Typically this time of year, there's 12 to 14,000. So there's a very low number of homes out there to buy. But there's lots of buyers out, right? So it's supply and demand. Supply and demand always influences the pricing of homes, influences how the market is doing. If the supply is low and the demand is high, it's a good market for sellers. If the supply is high and the demand is low, it's the opposite. It's good for buyers. So right now the supply is low and the demand is high. So it's kind of a seller's market, and it's trending up. So why is there so many people wanting to buy right now if it's a seller's market? Well, there's very low interest rates. Okay, so although you might be paying a little bit more, the low interest rates are saving you a lot of money. Okay, so you might pay, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 more, but with the low interest rates, you're going to save $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 over the term of that mortgage in some cases. So huge savings on that end. The stress test is lower. So before it was harder to get approved, and now it's a lot easier to get approved. And Sunny will talk about all that stuff in a minute. Increased savings over COVID. So there's $90 billion more in Canadian bank accounts right now than before COVID. There's 16% more in Canadian savings accounts because of the immense amount of money the government was putting into the market, into the economy, and everything was shut down. So people couldn't spend it. So a lot of people were forced to save money. I saw a stat the other day, 15% of home buyers said that they were using money they saved over COVID to buy their home. So as a result, there's a record number of individuals out there buying, and supply is low, which gives you a really good market for sellers right now, but also for buyers because they're saving a lot more on the back end. That's why everybody's buying. So is now the time to buy? So absolutely it is. As I said, the market is trending up. Okay, sellers are more confident and it's trending up. So now is the time to buy so you can take advantage of the prices the way they are now. And interest rates are always creeping up as well. So you want to take advantage of those interest rates. The stress test is excellent, so you want to take advantage of that. So what are the advantages of buying now? People that only need to sell are on the market. Okay, a lot of people aren't on the market right now. They're waiting to see what happens. So people that only need to sell are out there. Sellers are more confident. So prices are starting to creep up, just like I was just talking about. Sellers are learning that they're in a position of strength. They didn't know before that they were in a position of strength. All during COVID, people thought it was a horrible market when it was really good. They didn't know. Now they're starting to learn that they're in a good market. So everything's starting to creep up. Interest rates are low, as I said, and the stress test is low. Disadvantage of buying now, it's a little bit more cumbersome to see homes. There are some people that are still a little bit COVID sensitive, and they want to be very, very careful. People that don't need to sell aren't on the market. Okay, they're waiting to see what happens. So there's less on, that's why there's less on the market, only 7,200 homes, right? So there's less on the market. But the good part of that is that the people that want to sell are out there. Okay, so you can make a deal. Prices are increased slightly and are trending up, as I said already. Now, we're also, I said it was a bit more cumbersome to see in homes. So we are taking some precautions because everybody's range of COVID sensitivity is different. There's some people who don't even care, think COVID is over, let's get out there, let's go look around, I don't care. And then there's other people that are very sensitive about it still. So we're taking, talking, I talk to the person, see what their level of sensitivity is, and we are able to take a ton of caution still if you're in that range of being sensitive to COVID. And when we're going into homes, we're assuming the other person is sensitive to COVID and taking precautions because we want to be respectful to the sellers. We can still do virtual showings if you want to do them. We can still do no-touch showings if you want to do them. We can do virtual consultations. I love Zoom. I got to be honest with you. I've been doing tons of Zoom consultations. Even though the person might not be COVID sensitive, it's a lot more convenient for them. So we can do that. We can do video walkthroughs. We do all the paperwork remotely still. So that's the good things that COVID has brought is we can do more things more quickly and remotely. And we still have checklists and due diligence in place, and we can get those checklists done. If you'd like that from the seller, I can get it done to make sure that they are safe and healthy. So whatever your level of COVID sensitivity is, we will definitely address it. Okay. Consultation. So the first thing, like I said, we do when we get together, if you want to buy a home, is the consultation. So what do we do during the consultation? This can be done virtually over Zoom, by the way. We're going to get to know your needs. Okay. So buying a home is more than just, 2 bedrooms and 3 washrooms, or 3 bedrooms and 2 washrooms. You really have to get to know you to basically buy you the right home. So we sit down, I get to know you a little bit. What are your needs today, but also what are your needs in the future? Okay. How long do you want to live in the house? Is it a move-up house for you where you're going to buy it and then buy something bigger 5-10 years from now? If that's the case, you have to buy the right home to accommodate that. Is it something that you want to buy and then move to a bigger house and then keep it as an investment property and rent it out? Because then it has to be in a good rental area as well. So we have to look at that. Or is it something that you're going to live in and it's going to be your permanent family home? You're going to be there for 20, 30 years. And you know what? Your kids are going to grow up there. So the house might be great for little kids, but is it going to be great when your kids turn into teenagers as well? So these are all things we have to look at, and things that people don't think of. So getting to know you and your home goal needs today and in the future is very, very important in this consultation. I'm going to ask you to, of course, describe your ideal home to me. And also, we're going to talk about the difference between must-haves and nice-to-haves. Okay, so what's the difference? Must-haves, there's things that are difficult to change. So things like square footage, number of washrooms, number of bedrooms. They're very expensive to change that stuff. And then there's nice-to-haves. So what's nice-to-haves? Things like granite countertops, laminate flooring or vinyl plank flooring, even things like a gas fireplace, you can put that in. Even in some cases, a garage, if there's room for a garage, you can put in a garage, right? So things that you can put in fairly easily are nice to haves, okay? And things that are really expensive or almost impossible to put in are must-haves, okay? And we'll talk about must-haves and nice-to-haves, and then we'll try to find you the perfect home for your needs. So after we talk about all this, I get to know you, find out what's important to you. Also ask you what you've looked at on the internet so far. So most home buyers, 97% of home buyers have already looked on the internet for a house up to a year before they even call a realtor. So I know some of you have probably already done that. So I'll find out what you've looked at, get you to send it to me so I can get familiar with what kind of home you like. And then I'll do the MLS search. So as a realtor, I can narrow it down quite a bit on MLS to what you're looking for. So I'll put in all the stats you're looking for, and then it'll spit out a bunch of homes to me, okay? It'll spit out, depending on the amount of neighborhoods, anywhere from 50 to 75 homes, maybe even more. Then I'll go through those and I'll delete the ones that don't fit what I found out when I got to know you. Okay, your short, your long-term goals, your nice to haves aren't accounted for in that search. So I'll go through and and I'll make sure that they fit what you want. And then I'll send you the shorter list, and then you go through that and you send me back what you want to see, and that's what we go to see. Okay. I'll also set up a permanent search for you. So this is a huge benefit with the realtor as well. I'll set up a permanent search that if we don't find what you're looking for in that initial search, within 15 minutes, sometimes even 15 seconds of a realtor loading it up on MLS, it'll come right to your inbox. Okay. This is very advantageous to you in this type of market because good homes are selling very quickly. So what's a good home? A good home is one that is clean, well-maintained, and well-priced. Okay. These homes are selling very, very quickly. So you want it to come to you quickly so you can take advantage of that house. Okay. And go see it first. So you'll be on that permanent search so you get them first. So what if you find a home you like? We're going to talk about that in a minute. Another question I get is it beneficial to use a realtor when buying new builds? Absolutely it is, okay? Some people don't realize that when buying a new home, you want somebody that's on your side. Those people that you go see in the offices of the new home builders, they work for the builder, okay? So although they seem very nice and they're gonna do their best to help you, they really work for the builder. And they're not there for your benefit, they're there for their benefit. So it's really good to have somebody on your side to help you with your needs, to give you direction, to give you advice. And you know what? Those guys have never worked in a resale market, so they can't give you advice on resale. So these are the top 3 reasons I put right here of using a realtor to go look at new homes. Looks after your best interests. I can negotiate prices down. People don't know that. People think they go to the builder and the price they say is what they have to pay. That's not the case. You can negotiate that stuff down. So I can do that for you. I have relationships with a lot of builders that I call them up and they know what I want and I bring them lots of clients so they give me better deals. Okay, they want me to bring them more clients. So you are going to buy one home for them. I'm going to bring them 5, 6, 7 clients over a year. So they're really motivated to give me a deal. I can also negotiate, other than pricing, inclusions, okay? Sometimes inclusions is even better than pricing, right? Including things like better appliances, better flooring that you might want, granite counters, fences, decks, landscaping, stuff like that. Also, the best thing I think a realtor can do for you is give you advice to protect your investment. Okay, so basically give you advice, give you advice. So when you resell that property someday, you're going to be able to sell it for either the same price or more money and not lose any money on it. Okay, sometimes people think when they build a house, they can do whatever they want, okay, to make it their own. They can do whatever they want to a point. But if they're going to sell that house someday, they have to do what's going to appeal to the masses when they sell it and can get them a return on investment. And that's the number one thing I can help you with, a return on investment. Okay. So once we find a bunch of homes that you like and from the search, that's when we go look at homes. So let's go look at homes. This is the most fun part. Okay, guys, we're going to have a lot of fun when we're doing this. I like to have a fun when I'm looking at homes. I like to goof around a lot, take a lot of Instagram, Facebook pictures with you guys. I like to joke around a lot, but I also like to be serious and make sure you're finding the place you want. Okay, we can have fun and do our job at the same time, right? So here's some things to look for when you're going to look at houses. So when you're going to the property, a lot of people have tunnel vision or they're looking at their GPS and they go right to the property. So a really good thing to remember is to, when you're driving through the neighborhood, look at your surroundings, okay? Because you're not just buying that home, you're also buying the neighborhood, okay? The neighborhood matters. Are the neighbors maintaining their lawn? Okay. Is it a nice, quiet neighborhood with kids playing? Okay. Is that what you want? Some people want that. Other people want a lot of hustle and bustle. So is there a lot of hustle bustle around? Is it close to things like shops that you like? One lady I was helping really needed to be beside a superstore because she liked walking to superstore all the time for her groceries. We found her a place near a superstore. Is that important to you? I like being near somewhere where there's a Mac store or a 7-Eleven so I can get my Proline tickets every Sunday. That's very important to me. So what is important to you? There's something different that's important to everybody. So when you're driving there, look for, do you take the bus to work every day? Is there a bus stop close? Okay, that's really, really important to a lot of people. So whatever is important to you, that's what you should be looking for on this drive. We do a maximum of 4 to 5 showings in the evening, or 7 to 9 in a whole day. Okay, we don't want to get you confused and look at too many properties. At the end, we always narrow it down to 1 or 2 properties max. Okay, and then we always compare to that the next time we go out. We make note of any inclusions as we're going through the property. Okay, so how do the fridge, stove, washer, dryer, how does all that look? How do all the appliances look? And are they all included in the sale? I will make sure they're included, but are they including them? Is that going to be a part of the negotiation? And then always think about resale. Okay. Now, most people, excuse me, most people when they go out as buyers are very, very excited. They're looking at finishings. They're looking at colors, what kind of counters there are, flooring, that type of stuff. My job is to see beyond the finishings and give you that advice on resale. Is it backing onto a busy street? Is that gonna, if you don't care, is that gonna hurt you in resale? Okay. Why is this home still in the market? Let's try to figure it out. Okay. Giving you advice on resale is one of the most important things, and that's what I'm there for. Okay. Honest advice. Once you've found a home you like, eventually, we'll make an offer on it. And that's what we're going to talk about next. So there's a few things involved in an offer. First of all, one of my number one jobs is to make sure that you're paying market value or below for that house. Okay. So how do we figure out what market value or below is? Sunny, can you just go back to the last screen, please? Thank you. Yeah. So how do we find out what market value or below is? I do something called a CMA. Okay. I do an evaluation of the property. So I find all the properties in the neighborhood that are similar to that one and what they're selling for currently, what they're on. So that's the competition, what they have sold for and what they haven't sold for. Okay. Things that have expired. And we come out with what is the natural price for that house. Then let's say that's 300,000. That might go up and down depending on a few different things. Things like, the condition of the home. If it's better than the ones that sold, it'll be higher. If it's worse, it'll be lower. Updates to the home, and also has the home done any renovations? Okay, we look at all 3 of those and find the most optimum price for that home, what you want to get it for. And then that's what our offer is based on. Other things that are included in an offer, we want to have conditions. So there's 3 different conditions typically. One is a home inspection. And then the next thing is the financing condition. Okay, we usually have 10 to 14 days to make sure that you can get your home inspection done and your financing confirmed. Okay. And if you're buying a condo, the most important part about buying a condo is a review and approval of the condo documents. If you're buying a condo, I can talk to you about that separately, about what that means. But the most important conditions, home inspection, financing, and if you're buying a condo, review of the condo documents. We also want to have terms and inclusions and exclusions in there. So are the appliances included? We want to write in all the appliances so you get them all. Okay. Any fixtures that you might have liked in the house. Okay. We want to put them all in so you get them all, and any decorative items we can negotiate as well. Also, to accompany the offer, you have to have a deposit. Okay. Typically the deposit is anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 depending on the price of the house, and I can advise you on that when you find the house. That is also included. Now, the deposit sits in a trust account for both you and the seller until closing day, and it goes towards your down payment. Okay, so it doesn't matter to you what the deposit is, as long as it's not higher than your down payment. It goes right towards your down payment. And if these conditions up here aren't satisfied, like if you don't do the home inspection, you find something crazy, you want to back out, if you don't get your financing, if you don't like the condo documents, you can back out up to that 10 to 14 days and still get your deposit back. Okay, so it's very safe. You're just giving it for security to the seller. Okay. Once the offer is accepted, we have a pending deal, which means you have an offer that is agreed to with the conditions in there, and we now have 10 to 14 days to get all these conditions looked after. Okay, yay, offer accepted. So we're going to do a quick check here. We did a review of the year, disadvantage, advantage of buying, precautions we're taking right now. We reviewed the steps of buying, consultation, showing, offer acceptance. And now you go to Sunny to get your mortgage approved, and he's going to take over and tell you what that involves.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. All right. Okay, so I'm going to introduce myself real quick here before we jump into it. My name is Sunny Vig. I'm from the Mortgage Force team, also known as Dominion Lending Center's Mortgage Force. We're an independently owned, family-operated office here in Edmonton. We have decades of banking, mortgage, and financing experience under our belts. My family comes from a very extensive banking and mortgage background. In 2019, we won the Consumer Choice Award for mortgage brokers in Northern Alberta. In 2020, we won the Diamond Award for being amongst the top 5% of mortgage brokers across Canada. And this year, our office was also nominated, and we were the finalists to win the Brokerage of the Year in the Canadian Mortgage Professionals CMP Awards. So very proud of those accomplishments. We represent our clients and work with many mortgage lenders, including the big banks, credit unions, mortgage finance companies, and trust companies. Some of these lender partnerships are even exclusive to our office. So a lot of options there for our clients for their mortgage needs and their financing. We strive to serve our clients with integrity, honesty, and with their absolute best interest in mind. And just like Jim, there is no cost to you to use a mortgage broker. We get paid by the bank or lender based on the mortgage amount and not the interest rate. So it's in our best interest to give you the best interest rate. Our goal is to provide a great overall experience. We work for you, and we want to do the best that we absolutely can. We get a lot of our business from referrals, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for you to be super happy with our service and refer our name out to your friends and family. Okay, so there's a couple ways that we're serving our clients right now. We are doing in-person meetings and also phone consultations if you feel more comfortable. And we'll go over the application and all the information over the phone, or if you prefer to jump on a video conferencing platform like Zoom, we can definitely do that. Documents, we'll tell you, bring in an initial set of documents, but the rest of the documents, they can be sent to us via email. They can be faxed in if you're living in the era of fax machines still. They can also be dropped off, or they can also be left in a secure drop-off location at our office after hours. Over the last little bit, we've been working on making it easier for our clients to do their mortgage application completely online. So flashmortgages.ca allows you to do your whole application. You can even upload your documentation, using your smartphone camera. You can approve, sign your final paperwork, all with your fingertips, all from the comfort of your home. You really don't need to come in or even talk to someone. If you don't want to, of course, we prefer to speak with you, but if that's kind of what you prefer, we have options for that as well. I'm going to go over some common terminology here. So a lot of people are familiar with a pre-approval, or they've heard that term, but they don't really know what that means. A pre-approval is a formal commitment to lend and it's given out by a lender based on the information that is presented to that particular lender. What that means is that it's our job as mortgage professionals to give the lender accurate information. There's typically no documents that are verified at that stage. So I can put pretty much anything in the income section of the application, send it off, and the client will be given a pre-approval based on what the information entered into the system was. So we will ask for some initial set of documentation just because we want to make sure that that pre-approval is accurate. The other advantage to a pre-approval is it comes with a rate hold. So you are pretty much shielding yourself from potential rate increases, and rates are at all-time lows right now, and I'll talk about that a little bit more coming up. So there's a possibility that rates could be going higher in the next little bit. So this is shielding yourself and potentially protecting yourselves from the higher rates. So you get a rate that's locked in. If the rates go up, you get the lower of the two rates. If the rates are lower at the time that you find a home, we'll give you the better of the two. So it really is a good option. And a pre-approval also allows us to check your credit to make sure there's nothing hidden there. So a really, really good option. If you do not want to get a formal pre-approval, if you don't want your credit checked, we can do what's called a pre-qualification, which is just a conversation. And we are more than happy to do that with you. We'll give you figures, what your maximum affordability is, payments, rate quotes, everything, right? It's completely up to you. Down payment is the next term we're going to go over. And this is the money that you put down for a home. So the minimum down payment in Canada is 5% of the purchase price. If you're buying anything over $500,000, it's 5% for the first $500,000 and then 10% for anything above $500K. Some of you might or might not have heard about CMHC insurance. This is mortgage default insurance. And CMHC is just one of the three organizations that insure the mortgages for the banks. So one is going to be CMHC, the second one is going to be Sagen, and the third is going to be Canada Guarantee. This is a requirement if you're putting less than 20% down. The premium for this is payable by the borrower, but it ultimately protects the lender in case the borrower defaults on their mortgage. And like I said, this is not optional, it is required. And we can tell you exactly what the premiums are when we have this conversation. And these premiums are going to be consistent throughout Canada with every bank and lender. Now, the total amount of time it's going to take you to pay off your full mortgage down to zero is called the amortization period. So this is the full length of the loan. And this is typically 25 or 30 years, depending on how much you're putting down. Within that 25 or 30 years, you have smaller segments called terms, right? So a term is pretty much a set agreed upon interest rate, or it's a contract. These terms are typically about 5 years long. You can have a fixed term, or you can have a variable term, or a fixed rate or a variable rate. And a fixed rate essentially is, a rate that's given to you, and that rate is not going to change. You know what your payments are for the next X number of years, typically 5, like I said. Now, a variable rate on the flip side has the potential of changing. The benefit to a variable is it typically starts off lower, but it moves with what's called the prime rate of Canada, and the government gets to decide what the prime rate is. And they look at the economy and they look at inflation, and inflation is a problem, and the economy is doing well, they'll raise the prime rate. If the economy is doing not so well, they'll lower the prime rate. And that's one of the reasons why mortgages are at all-time lows right now, is because the prime rate is very low. So the variable rate it has a potential of going up, but it does start off lower than the fixed rate. But again, if you're savvy, kind of like the stock market, you can kind of use that as your advantage, or to your advantage. Now, the next thing I want to address is prepayment penalties. Like I said, a term is a contract, right? Just like a cell phone contract. If you break it, what happens? You have to pay fees and penalties, right, to break it. The other advantage to a variable rate versus a fixed rate is that penalty is much lower. It's just 3 months worth of interest. If you go fixed, if you have a fixed rate, that potential penalty can be a lot higher, and it's called an interest rate differential. So those are some benefits to a fixed versus variable. Again, pros and cons to both. It's our job to figure out, what your goals are in the short term, and it's our job to advise you based on those goals. So we'll have that conversation in the initial consultation. Now, stress test has been a buzzword in the media for the last couple of years. Essentially, what a stress test is, and I'll talk about GDS and TDS and some debt to income ratios that we calculate when we're trying to figure out affordability. But we have to pretend as if your rate is much higher than you're actually getting, to see if you can afford those payments based on your income, right? And the stress test rate is always changing. So make sure you are up to date with whatever the stress test rate is, and we'll advise you of all this when you give us a call. Okay, switching gears now, we're going to talk about 5 factors that influence a mortgage application. First and foremost is going to be the property itself. So the use and type of the property and the location of the property. So the use of the property is, hey, is it a rental property? Is it a property that you're going to be living in, right? So that's the use of a property. The location is, hey, is it in Edmonton or is it in Timbuktu, Alberta, that has a population of 17? And essentially, lenders are trying to determine marketability of that property. Right. Worst case scenario, if something happens to the borrower, or the borrower is unable to make that mortgage payment, how marketable is that property? Are they able to kind of recover their funds? And that's what the lenders are trying to determine. because the property is the bank security. And that's why we're able to get low rates on mortgages, is because there's collateral there, there's property there, and there's security there for that bank and lender. The other factor is going to be your credit report. So credit report essentially is a report card for repayment history of credit accounts. So how well you pay your bills, and do you pay your bills in a timely manner? So you do need a satisfactory credit report and score. So typically 650 plus, you're usually not running into too many issues. And you do need 2 credit accounts in good standing for at least 1 year. So what that means is if you don't have any credit cards, no lines of credit, no car loans, we have to work on getting those in place and building your credit. So we'll definitely help you with that if that's the issue. We also have solutions if, let's say, you don't have good credit, but those call for a little bit of a higher down payment, a little bit of higher interest rate. Again, if that's a category that you fall under, give us a call. We'll advise you accordingly. I had mentioned before that I'm going to talk about income to debt. So lenders are looking at the source of income. So how are you going to pay back this mortgage? How are you going to make your payments? Right. So CERB, CERB is not really a factor anymore. EI might be. Right. So unfortunately, if you're on EI, CERB, or you're laid off temporarily, we have to wait until you have a source of employment or source of income again. Every bank, every lender in Canada, they look at 2 debt to income ratios, and these debt to income ratios are going to be GDS and TDS. GDS essentially is your monthly income, right, versus your monthly expenses when it comes to home ownership. So your mortgage payment, your property taxes, your heating expenses, right? So that's GDS. TDS is everything in GDS plus your other monthly expenses. So car payments, right? If you have any outstanding credit card balances or line of credit balances, student loans. Now, when we're doing these, we have to apply the mortgage payment at the stress test rate. So that's how it kind of ties in. So your GDS, so your income versus how much you spend on your housing expenses, cannot exceed 39%, right? So no more than 39% of your income can go towards paying your housing expenses every single month. TDS, they give you a little bit of a buffer there, is cannot exceed 44%. So what that essentially means is no more than 44% of your income can go towards paying off your housing expenses and any other monthly debt obligations that you have. Again, we'll do all these calculations for you and give you your maximum affordability. We'll work on some scenarios for you to help you maximize that. Also, down payment and fallback is another factor that influences a mortgage application. So where is the source? What's the source of down payment? Where is that down payment coming from? Do we have a verifiable source of down payment? And this is to do with the Anti-Money Laundering Act for the bank, with the Bank of Canada, the Canadian government, essentially, right? And then also, how much money do you have left over after down payment for a rainy day? That's what they're looking at. Typically, you do need a little bit of money, but there are some lenders that are a little bit easier on this. So again, depending on your situation, we can talk about this, but lenders typically want you to have some money after your down payment for fallback, and that's what it's referred to as. And then last but not least, just the overall strength of the application and the overall stability of the applicant, right? So a holistic view of the whole application, how stable is the client when they come to where they're living, maybe their job, right? So those are some factors that are looked at. And if there's any risks that are present, how are we able to mitigate the risks, right? And that's our job, to ask you the tough questions. And sometimes we will ask you tough questions. And all we're trying to do is mitigate risks and explain, the situation properly to lenders so that an approval, the chances of approval essentially go up. So these are 5 factors that influence a mortgage application. And again, if you want to talk about these in detail, give me a call. I'm more than happy to discuss each and every one of these factors. So what's happening with the current mortgage climate? I get this question a lot. So right now we're experiencing record low interest rates. So what that means is that the interest rates right now that are available for mortgages are super low. They've never been this low, even after the recent slight rate increases. So we have seen slight rate increases from 6 months ago. They're still low. I mean, these rate increases were minimal compared to how much you're going to save, as opposed to pre-pandemic interest rates. First-time homebuyer incentive programs are also available by the government. And what that is essentially the government will lend you up to 10% of your down payment as an interest-free equity share loan from the government of Canada. So they're going to lend this money to you. You do have to pay it back within 25 years, or when you sell your home, whatever comes sooner. And this is a really good option for people that want to lower their payments, as well as get 10% of your money pretty much loaned to you for free. Like it's going to be interest free. Home buyers plan right now, they recently in the last couple of years here, they increased the maximum that you can actually use out of your RSP towards down payment. So it used to be 25,000, now it's 35,000, and you can freely take that money out of your RSP as long as it's recontributed back, typically within 15 years. And lenders right now are offering cash promotions and incentives. I have some lenders that are offering cash back, some money back if you get a mortgage through them. There's a few lenders that are even offering free home warranties along with your mortgage, and the rates are not, there's no premiums or bonuses on these rates. There's a lender that's doing interest free for 3, so you don't actually pay the interest portion of your mortgage for 3 months. They'll actually pay that interest portion of your mortgage. So a lot of good incentives, a lot of good promotions going on right now. So right now is a really good time to look into this stuff. And realistically, I mean, you can't be rock bottom, forever. So rates will likely continue to rise in the near future. Again, like I said, we did see a little bit of a rate increase, and that will just continue to happen moving forward due to economic recovery, growth, and the potential of inflation, right? Banks are concerned about that as well. So expect to see interest rates rebound over the next 1.5 years, right? So just a couple things. Again, if you have any more questions, give me a call. I'm more than happy to answer these for you. So rates are very low right now. Let's get started with a pre-approval, lock in that low rate. We can lock it in for up to 4 months. So even if you're not ready now, why not get yourself pre-approved? Why not see what your maximum affordability is, get some payment options on the table maybe, and just kind of plan out your home ownership journey. And the first step is talking to a mortgage professional. So visit us online, www.mortgageapplyonline.ca. And that's kind of where you'll find our contact information. You'll get a link to Flash Mortgages there. You can download our calculator. You can download our app that has a lot of features in it as well, and a lot of good things at mortgageapplyonline.ca. So that's it for me. I'm going to pass it on to Jason here, and he's going to take it away to introduce himself.
Perfect. Am I unmuted now? I think so.
Yeah, you're good to go.
Hey, everybody. My name is Jason Wolf. I'm the owner and founder of Alberta Master Home Inspections here in Edmonton. We do inspections, Edmonton surrounding areas, acreages, condominiums, apartments, you name it, I'll do it. A little bit about me. I've been a home inspector for about 8 years. I certified in radon gas, mold, indoor air quality. I've taken just about every course that's available out there. I've been a contractor for over 15 years as well. Still do a little bit of contracting in the winter months when home inspections slow down. As a contractor, I think that's helped me huge in the inspection business, making me a better inspector, because I've seen behind walls and I've seen what causes damage and pretty much have installed everything there is possible into a house. What we do as far as an inspector, I'd like to go over that a bit. Buying a house is going to be your largest investment purchase ever for most people. And so it's my job to make sure that you have an overall idea of the condition of the home, all of its components, appliances, everything. I've got a plethora of tools, carbon monoxide detectors, combustible gas detectors, moisture meters, thermal imaging, that and vast knowledge to go through a home to give you a really good idea of its overall condition. There are some other things that we can do, typically not at the time of home inspection, but perhaps you may want to get a sewer scope inspection. Older house, want to make sure the sewer lines are good from the house to the city. I can book that in. Radon gas, I had mentioned a bit. That's something that would have to be done at time or at possession, because it's a minimum 3-month test. And if you have any questions about radon gas or any of this other stuff, you can always contact me and I can fill you in. I think the next slide there, Sunny, should be good. When it's time for the inspection, I try get there a little early, depending on the day, just to sort of maybe do the roof exterior before everyone shows up. And then while the realtor's getting the lockbox unlocked and finding the lockbox, I'd go through things with you on the outside. I usually start on the roof. The importance about the roof, people are usually worried about the age and what the material design life is left in it. 10 years, 5 years, or are you going to need to put shingles in right away? Because it's quite a substantial amount of money that somebody can spend. While I'm up on the roof, of course, I'm going to take a look at other things like the flashings, the chimney, and give you a list of things to do for maintenance in the future on the roof, whether it be annually or every 3-5 years. And then, of course, tell you what the material is, because that determines the age, right, or the life expectancy. If it's just a simple 15-year shingle, perhaps it could be a 35-year asphalt with some fiberglass in it. So try and give you the best idea of how long that roof and roof material is going to last. Next slide there, Sunny, please. After the roof, deal with the exterior. That will be the envelope of the home, windows, cladding, etc., as well as grading site management. That's always quite important. With the exterior, typically it's a lot of general maintenance stuff that you'll be getting from me as a list to do when moving in. And the reason is usually it's neglect. For example, weathered paint on some windows or doors, or the caulking around the windows or seals has let loose or worn or dried out. Very common to get settlement around the house, maybe some negative grading where the water might be starting to come towards the house. People lifting downspouts and leaders for the roof drainage for mowing the lawn, and then they're broken. So most of that part of the exterior will be general maintenance recommendations for you moving forward. Here's a list of things to do in the future. Here's a list of things to do now to prevent maybe some water intrusion or to at least mitigate it. Might be something as simple as take your garden hose off before winter so that it doesn't freeze and leak come the springtime. Okay. Next slide. In the home, a couple of areas, structure, foundation, and attic is probably the most concentrated areas, just because that's where we're going to tell you whether there's going to be water intrusion or some structural integrity. In the basement, when we go in looking at structure, really, we're pretty lucky here in Edmonton. I mean, we're a young city. An old house is a 1940s, 1950s house. I mean, it's not uncommon if we were out east there to be 100, 150-year-old houses all the time. If we were in Europe, they could be 200-300-year-old. But in Edmonton, I mean, 70 years old and younger is the majority of the homes that we inspect. And usually structure isn't an issue as far as integrity. It's very rare that I call out and recommend getting a structural engineer because the houses are just so young. Where it more falls into is those stress cracks. In the picture in the top there, you can see that's a Syndicrete block foundation. Sometimes there's wood foundations. And so we'll let you know what the foundation is, what you can do to mitigate water getting in, and just give you the overall impression of what the structure is. Like I said, it's very rare that we get significant fatigue in any of the homes these days. Usually it's just a recommendation to get a crack repaired, or maybe just deal with some stuff outside, grading in water. Next slide, please. Attic, that's the next place where, again, with the roof's always really important. You want to know how long those shingles are going to last. But in the attic itself, all right, is there moisture issues? It doesn't always mean water intrusion because the shingles are bad. It could be poor ventilation. Could be an exhaust run that's fallen from a bath fan, blowing humidity in there, causing lots of humidity. In the bottom left there, you can see icicles. A lot of times that happens when that happens. Bath fan falls and blows humid air in -40 weather. So structure is important. Indications of moisture intrusion or past, any mold from lack of ventilation. And then finally, the insulation. The insulation, not just the R value, but what type of insulation it is. In the top right, I think that looks like a vermiculite attic, which may contain asbestos. So if you're buying an older house and you want to do some renovations to it, you're going to want to know what precautions you're going to need to take if the insulation is vermiculite and might have asbestos in it. I try to go in every attic. Most attics you can inspect from the attic hatch, but if it's safe and you're not going to cause a bunch of damage or pounding down insulation, a lot of the homes now are R50, R60. We're talking thick insulation. So sometimes it causes more disturbance to go up in an attic if it's not merited, and we just do it from the hatch. HVAC is probably another area where people are concerned for what kind of money they're going to have to spend when moving into a house that's a few years old. So age and life expectancy, again, similar to a roof or whatever other component of the house, is what we're going to give you. I mean, it's on average $1,500 for a water heater. Could be $5,000-$6,000 for a new furnace. So giving you that indication of age and life expectancy is really important. The majority of the HVAC thing will be also teaching you maintenance. Some of you may have never had a home before or lived in an apartment, didn't have to deal with maintenance, but there's furnace filters that need to be changed. There's HRV filters that need to be washed or changed. Evaporator pads and humidifiers, maintenance on water heaters. And then there's other maintenance that you can't do yourself. If you have a boiler or a heat pump or something that you can't do, I'll tell you, okay, a year, every 2, every 3, you need to hire this guy to come in and do a little bit of service on it. So the majority of the HVAC is going to be maintenance. In the top right there, you can see some infrared heating. I'll use thermal imaging cameras, make sure that that's being pumped everywhere properly. Do carbon monoxide tests, check for gas leaks, and make sure that the hot water heaters and things have been installed correctly. A lot of times homeowners put them in, especially water heaters. See a lot of mistakes with the install. Usually they're pretty minor. I'll point them out, and then it'll give you your to-do list when you move in. As far as the rest of the house, it sounds cliche, but I kind of call it lipstick and makeup. I mean, we're talking about carpet and walls and ceilings. With the kitchens and bathrooms, for the most part, looking for leaks, evidence of past leaks. I mean, it's really common for kitchen sinks to be cluttered with garbage pails and recycle pails and dishwasher detergent, whatever, and a leak is missed. Most of the time they're slow, but hey, let's catch it now and let you know that you need to fix it. Same thing in a bathroom. Towels stored underneath the vanity, didn't notice it. Maybe it's a loose toilet. Maybe there's a little bit of a drip. And then again, maintenance. Tiles around tubs are notorious for cracking grout, worn silicone around the fixtures. So those are the types of things that I'm doing in the kitchens and bathrooms, as well as checking all appliances. Not just stove, fridge, dishwasher, but running washers and dryers, just to make sure there's no leaks. Really difficult to tell life expectancy because you don't know if they do a load of laundry a day or 5. But at least we can get an idea that there's no leaks and they're functional. Again, with the living spaces, it's more of I don't want to say lipstick and makeup again, but that's the idea. I'm actually not as concerned about that. I'm looking at the whole house for moisture, probably, settlement cracks that are unusual, uneven floors. I'm looking for the big picture. It's normal for there to be a crack in a ceiling or above a door It's normal that there might be a couple humps in the floor because houses do shift and move. Everybody's been in that house where the bathroom door works great in the summer, and then winter comes along, the ground freezes and heaves a little bit, the house shifts, and now the door binds. So there's some things that are typical, but if I'm trying to concentrate on the things that are not typical, that might be structure related or moisture related or lack of insulation related. And that's where the thermal imaging camera comes in great, especially in the summertime. It's been raining, basements, scan the walls. It's really nice. In that bottom right picture, I think that's a basement where you can see there might be a little bit of moisture. Wintertime's great for looking for insulation or lack of there. I had a house not too long ago. It was a new build, and they had it as a show home. And we're scanning with a thermal imaging camera, and at the front entrance is this big blue spot where the door from the garage to the house was, the office door. Well, they boarded it up, but they didn't put any insulation in it. Thermal imaging got it, right? Another reason to get a new home inspected, not just use a realtor. It wasn't even 2 months ago, I did a 2018 house, getting back to the attics, 2018 house. They obviously didn't get it inspected when they bought it brand new. When I looked at it a couple months ago, I went in the attic, there was no insulation at all. Just an oversight from the builder, but their gas bill was probably pretty high. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell, as far as what home inspectors do. Make sure that if you're looking for a home inspector, that they are licensed through Service Alberta, as we all are required, all required to be bonded, have errors and omissions insurance, and that sort of thing. Unlike Sunny and Jim, we do have a fee. You know, fees, I mean, I think I'm pretty average. A standard house in Edmonton is about $495. Apartment condominiums, where it's just the apartment itself, is about $275. If you have a townhouse where it's a house, but you're not doing the exterior because it's condos association, they're a little less, about $425, and acreages are around $550. So those are ballpark prices, just so you know. Some guys are a lot more money, some guys are cheaper. Again, cheaper isn't always bad, and the most expensive isn't the best. Do your due diligence, do some shopping, get some references. That's about it. If you have any questions, you can give me a shout anytime.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. That was some really good information. We're going to do a quick check here, then we'll pass it on to Sherri to introduce herself. So we reviewed the home buying process with Jim. We reviewed the importance of a pre-approval with me. Important mortgage terms and rules. I'm sure that was super exciting. We went over that. Resources available to get you approval and get you a mortgage. We went over that as well. And then Jason had some really good information in regards to the importance and process of a home inspection. So now we're going to discuss the legal process with Sherri. Sherri, take it away.
Thank you, Sunny. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. I'm going to start with an introduction of myself. So my name is Sherri Simons. Just a bit about me. I received my Bachelor of Science and my law degrees here from the University of Alberta. I was called to the bar in 2014, so that means I'm in my 8th year of practice now. My practice areas generally are solicitor-based, so that means things like real estate, estate planning, estate administration. I do some corporate law. I work on lots of different contracts and policies, and also do some dispute resolution. I served as the previous chair and vice chair of the real property section, excuse me, the real property section of the Canadian Bar Association. I do volunteer with the Edmonton Community Legal Center. So I serve as a wills roster volunteer. So that means I help lower income people prepare their estate plan. Last year, I won a Woman in Law Award for estate planning. And I'm also published. I have an article entitled Lesser Known Property Laws that was published actually just this past January. So I'm going to go over basically what is my role in your house purchase? What does a lawyer do actually? So a lot of the work that I do for you is behind the scenes. So my main job is to make sure that your interests are protected. And to do that, I do some background checks. So that would include things like doing a property tax search, pulling a certificate of title for the property that you're going to buy, and looking into the registrations there. If you're buying a condo, I pull a condo plan, which is basically a survey of the overview of the building. Another thing that I do is I'm responsible for receiving funds from lenders, and I will send the funds to the sellers on the day of closing. The other thing I'm responsible for doing is registering the transfer of land into your name and also your mortgage with the land titles office. So as a buyer, I just want to go over, so what exactly are you buying as a buyer? So if you're looking to buy a house, you would be buying the land plus all of the improvements made to the land. So the improvements would include things like the house, the garage, fences, decks, any of the permanent improvements that were made to the land. If you're buying a condo, it's slightly different. So you are actually buying title to your unit itself, but you also will own shares in the common property. So the common property is things that all of the condo owners would share. So things like hallways, parking lots, typically, if there's elevators, stairwells. So that's the common property, and you would be owning a certain share of that. One thing I do watch for, sometimes condos will have separate titles for parking and storage units. So if that's something that is applicable to the condo you're buying, then I make sure that we make sure that those titles are captured as well, because we want to make sure that they get transferred to you as part of the buying process. There can be two different descriptions for the property that you're buying. So there's a municipal address versus the legal description. So the municipal address is your regular street address. So it could be 123 Maple Street, for example. The legal description is a bit more complicated. Nobody typically remembers it, but it's something that I'll check for you. So that's the plan block lot number. So I do mention that I will go over the certificate of title to examine it and see if there's anything weird that you need to be concerned about. So I will look at encumbrances that are registered on title. An encumbrance is just simply a registration. So your certificate of title I would pull, and I would check to see what's on there. So things that are very common to be expected would be things like a mortgage. So a lot of the times the seller's existing mortgage will be on your title. They do have an obligation to make sure that that's removed. Very often we'll see utility right-of-ways, for example, for EPCOR, ATCO, any of the utility companies. There sometimes can be special zoning regulations on title. And if there are, I'll make sure that you're aware of that and that you know what they mean. Sometimes we'll see homeowners association agreements, so I'll go over those with you if they apply. If you are sharing a wall with a neighbor, very often there's going to be something called a party wall agreement. So basically that's just, two neighbors are sharing a wall, and there's some implications for that I will go over with you. So things that would cause concern are things such as builder's liens, writs of enforcement, a lis pendens, that means there's litigation pending that involves the property, court orders, and tax arrear registrations. So those would be big red flags for me. If there's any sort of problem there, I would, become involved and figure out, what's the solution? What do we need to do to sort this out? So meeting with me. So basically you only need to meet with me once, and this takes place approximately 5 to 7 days before the closing date. So at the meeting with you, I'll do a bunch of things. So one thing I'll do is review that certificate of title that I mentioned and any registrations that are there that you need to be aware of. I will review the real property report and the compliance certificate. So that's basically a legal, sorry, not illegal, but an official survey, a land survey of the property that shows all the improvements. Those will get submitted to the municipality for compliance. So the municipality, so for example, in Edmonton, takes a look at that real property report, and they'll just see if anything is kind of out of place or if there's something that you need to be aware of. Sometimes though, in some cases, we have title insurance that applies instead. So whatever the case, I'll go over that with you. I will review the statement of adjustments with you. So this is a statement that shows the big adjustment is always property taxes. So there's going to be a property tax adjustment on there. There could be other costs adjusted between the parties. And sometimes there's things that the parties agreed to adjust. So a lot of times, if title insurance applies, the seller is going to give a credit to the buyer for that cost. So that's something that I would explain to you. Once I get the transfer of land in from the seller, I'll review that and go over that with you as well. Some other housekeeping things I do, I'll verify your ID for your lender and also for my file records. I'll make sure that you have proper property insurance arrangements in place, and we complete the signing of the mortgage documentation. So I'll go through all of that with you and we do all of the sign up. One of the other things I do is typically there's a little bit of a shortfall of cash that you need to bring into me in order to close your purchase. So I accept the balance of your cash to close. So once you've met with me, so the things that I'll do next, I'll send all of your mortgage documentation to your lender and I'll request funds for closing date. On the day of closing, as long as everything's gone smoothly, I send the closing funds to the seller's lawyer. And the seller's lawyer, once they receive the money, will authorize the release of keys between the realtors. And then one of the last things I'll do is I'll submit the transfer of land and your mortgage for registration with the land titles office. So we do have commitments to keep you safe. So if you come and visit our firm to do your sign up with me, we have hand sanitizer, there's hand washing policies in place. We still have plastic barriers. Wearing masks is now optional, so it depends on your comfort level. I'm still happy to wear a mask if that makes you more comfortable. If you are wary about coming downtown, we can certainly arrange for alternate meeting locations. That is not a problem for me. I have very often attended clients' houses. We've done yard meetings. I've met at parks, for example. And sometimes we can do remote meetings as well. As long as your lender's okay with that and it's a lower risk, it's considered lower risk by the lawyer, we can sometimes also do the remote meetings. So as a summary, I know I went through a lot of this information fairly quickly. There's a lot more details that happen behind the scenes. And if you have questions, certainly reach out to me because I'm happy to chat. But the main things that I want to summarize for you is that once your purchase agreement is finalized, your main obligation is to arrange for payment by noon on closing date. So that's your main obligation once your contract's done. So to do this, make sure you are working with a good realtor to make sure your purchase contract is airtight. Once it gets to me, it's very difficult for me to make any changes. So you need to work with a good realtor, such as Jim, to make sure you have that contract set up and good to go. Work with a good broker to get your financing in place well in advance of your closing. The biggest delays typically come from lenders and getting all of that paperwork to them and their requirements. So if you get that ready to go early enough, I can meet with you early enough, things should be smooth sailing. Also, let your realtor and broker know who your lawyer is so we can work together and coordinate the closing of your purchase. I often field calls from the realtors who are working on the purchase and the brokers, and it's very easy for us to coordinate. And Jim and Sunny, we know each other very well, so it's easy for us to coordinate on a purchase or a sale. So that's my summary. I'm going to pass it over back to, I think we're going back to Jim, who's going to talk about the possession date.
Yeah, so again, a quick summary. You guys did a great job. You know, we went through the purchase and we had the two conditions in place. We had the financing and the home inspection, and of course the condo docs if you're buying a condo. You went through and you did the inspection. It turned out good. Your financing got done with Sunny, yay, approved. So we were able to lift those conditions and move on, and then it went to the lawyer for her thing. So a lot of people think they get the key when they go to the lawyer. You actually don't. Your key is not given to you until they get the money, as Sherri said, on noon on possession day. So there's a bit of a process to this, okay? So it's not, you know, a quick thing. We're counting on a lot of people to do their job, and sometimes it takes time for all those people to get through doing it. So there can be delays in some cases. So your lawyer will send the money. Well, first of all, your lender sends the money to your lawyer, and then your lawyer sends it to the seller's lawyer. And then the seller's lawyer then calls the seller's realtor and tells them they have key release. They, at that time, call me, and then I drive to that brokerage to get the key. So I don't have the key until they have the money. Okay, so as you can see, it goes through a few different hands. This typically happens between noon and 2 p.m. Okay, but there have been delays. So I always recommend don't move on possession day. You want to have a stress-free day where we can meet at the house when we get the key, walk through, and make sure everything's good. We do a quick walkthrough, make sure it was left exactly like when we came and did the inspection, which was the last time you saw it. Everything is the same. The appliances are there that they agreed to. The fixtures are there that they agreed to. A non-stress-free day where we give each other a high five. I take some nice pictures of you for your social media, and then I leave you to your day. And you can move late in the evening, or you can move the next day when there's no pressure and everything, you know, everything's been dealt with the home. Okay, very important not to move on possession day. 1 of every 100 people I tell this to move on possession day, and that 1 of every 100 is typically the one that gets delayed. So please do not move on possession day. Very, very important. And I'll be there with the key typically between noon and 2 p.m. and we'll have a stress-free, awesome day. Yeah, that's kind of what possession day looks like. So I wanted to thank you guys for being here today. Thanks for taking time out of your day. Our contact information, as you can see, is here. Please contact us anytime with follow-up questions. This was an abbreviated version of what we usually do. Yeah, if you have any follow-up questions, please give me a call, give Sunny a call, give Jason a call or Sherri a call. We're all available all the time. If you call one of us, we can definitely get the information from the other people too as well. Okay, Sunny, Sherri, Jason, anything to add?
Nothing to add on my part. Again, I think you nailed it, Jim. Again, we don't bite. Please call us. We'd be more than happy to answer even some preliminary questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question, and we understand everyone starts somewhere. And we'd be more than happy to answer your questions, even if you're, not even close to looking at homes. It's good to get ready and good to get that information early on. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.